When should you claim Social Security benefits? And I know what you're already thinking, Drew, I'm going to claim at 62, or I'm going to claim on the day I stop working. It's my money and I need it now. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. I want to look at two specific scenarios. I want to look at a married couple. When should you claim Social Security benefits? And I want to look at a single person. When should you claim Social Security benefits? And what we're going to try to do is give you the confidence to know when you should claim Social Security benefits. And you're not going to hear me say, claim at full retirement age for both of them or wait till 70. No. We're going to claim Social Security benefits at the right time for the couple and at the right time for the single person based on their specific retirement needs, their specific retirement income, their expenses, and their specific life. Isn't that what you would want when it comes to claiming Social Security benefits based on you, not on some article from Forbes? Because keep in mind, if you claim Social Security at 62, you're going to get 70% of your full retirement benefit. If you claim at 67, you're going to get 100% of your full retirement benefit. And if you delay until 70, you're going to get 124% of your full retirement benefit. I call this overachieving broccoli eating. But just because you're eating broccoli doesn't mean you claim Social Security at the right time. Maybe you like chocolate cake and you claimed at 62. I like chocolate cake with a little bit of peanut butter. And so we need to know when is the best time to claim Social Security for us. So let's get into two specific scenarios. We're going to start with a single and then we're going to go to the married couple. All right, so let's look at Ben, and he's asking the question, when should I claim Social Security benefits? Now, Ben is single, and so deciding on when to claim Social Security benefits is going to be on me, myself, and I. Because when Ben goes into Social Security, when Ben goes into retirement as a single person, there will be no one else, no other retirement assets, no other retirement income except his. So making the decision based on me, myself, and I is very, very important. So let's look at this. Let's go through the facts first, and then we'll decide when to claim Social Security. So here we go. We got Ben. Now he's in real estate, and his current gross monthly salary is about $3,000 a month, which is $36,000 a year. Now he does work on commission, so he's got a base salary plus commission. All right. Now his projected retirement age is 55 years old. So we're 53. We're going to retire at 55. What do we need to do when claiming Social Security, right? We got 2 years before we retire. If we take Social Security at 67, we've got 12 years before we get to Social Security. If we retire at 55 and we claim at 62, then we've only got, what's that, 7 years, or 8 years really, before we get to Social Security. So we've got to determine what makes the most sense. For Ben, he might need to work a little longer too, depending on the strategy or depending on what we're looking at. So again, Social Security for him is going to be based on what he does. So we're looking at a Social Security at 67 of $2,900. Now we do have projected COLA on this at 2.58%. Now for my planning, what I'm not going to do is increase the Social Security with inflated dollars. Now, if you're in your 30s or 40s and you're trying to plan out Social Security, obviously there's a couple factors that are out there, like is Social Security going to be the same as it is today? But another thing that you want to look at is future dollars. What's your dollar going to be worth at 62, 67, 70 if you're in your 40s? You can do that on SSA.gov's website, Social Security Administration.gov's website. We do that a lot when we're doing a Your Financial EKG, but I want to be real conservative in my planning, because if the plan works on a conservative level, then I know it's going to even work better when we get a cost of living increases, when the market does better than we're projecting and all that stuff, okay? Now, we don't have any pensions. So if we go to assets, we've got a lot of different assets here. Let's just basically go to the numbers. We've got $880,000, okay? So we've got $880,000. We're making a contribution to a 401k of $360 per month with a company match. We're not making any other contributions at this point. We're going to retire at 55. Okay, so we're 53, we're going to retire at 55. We're trying to determine when are we going to claim Social Security. Now, our portfolio, we're going to look at a 6% rate of return. Now, the reason I'm going to use a 6% rate of return for my projection is because Ben is a better investor than most. He's pretty good at what he does. I'm not saying he's Warren Buffett, but you know, the market for the last 100 years or so has averaged 10 to 11%. Let's say that's 8 to 9 with inflation. So we're going to back up about 3% to 6. We could be even more conservative. And again, when we go through a financial EKG, we're even more conservative in our projections. I'm usually looking at 4 and 5%, but for Ben, he wanted 6%. So we're going to use the 6% for this scenario. Okay. But again, what we can look at, well, let's just do this for you guys. Let's say before retirement, we get 6% on everything but the bank, right? The bank, what are we going to earn at the bank? Let's say we earn 2% at the bank. Okay. But let's say after retirement, let's say we only want to earn 4%. So what we can do is we can actually project out 2 separate rates of return. So what the client is able to do, or what you're able to see in this case on YouTube, is I'm 37, I'm investing more for growth. But if I were to retire, my investments should not look the same today as they do when I retire. So 6 to 4. Okay, so we'll look at that and see if that changes our strategy with claiming Social Security benefits. So our portfolio weighted average right now is about 5.97%. That's going to go down, obviously, when we get into retirement. All right. Now, from an expense standpoint, Ben has been very, what's the word I want to look for? He has looked at his expenses over and over and over again, and he has been very diligent about what he is spending. We're going to look at $3,500 a month with inflation. 3.27 is going to be our inflation. Now, keep in mind, $3,500 a month for a single person might be right where you're at. And we're using an inflation rate of 3.27%, which is the 109-year average for inflation. So $3,500 today is not going to be $3,500 10, 15, 20 years from now. So that plays a big factor in when we're going to claim Social Security, right? When do we want that Social Security check to kick in to help us with our inflated expenses so that we don't have to pull out as much from our retirement income accounts? Again, we're going to look at all this here in just a second. Now, from a cash flow standpoint, we have multiple different cash flows that we're looking at. We want $55,000 worth of income over and above what we're guaranteeing. We want extra income for travel. We've got some new cars built in here. We've got an inheritance of $175,000 built in, and we've got a little part-time work of $1,250. Now, Ben's going to work part-time, not at his current job because it's stressful. He's going to work part-time because he's a single guy. All right. He's got one son. The son's going to be grown. He just wants to work just to keep his mind sharp. That doesn't mean you have to do that. A lot of people will comment on this video and say, Drew, you didn't help him retire because he worked part-time. That's what he wants to do. I'm not the one dictating his life. I just talked to a gentleman in California this week who said, hey, Drew, I've been laid off. I want to know, can I retire? And I do not want to work anymore. That video is to come, keep in mind. So we need to look at all these different factors. And so that's what we're going to look at here in cash flows. So we go to pre-retirement, and essentially we've got $880,000 currently. We've got about $938 when we get to 55. We go to retirement, and at 55, we're out of money at 75 years old. This is not the scenario that we want. Now, we do have a condo. It's not on here yet, but that's a protected asset. The condo would be here. He's looking at currently moving, so we're not adding that into our scenario yet because we don't know what that's going to look like. We're trying to do a cash change. And obviously for Ben, we've got a lot more factored in here than most people do. We've got there's a new car factored in. We've got other new cars factored in. We've got this inheritance coming in. So there's a lot of things that are factored in that we might not normally factor into a scenario because he's been so diligent about this. But what we want to look at is this. Does claiming Social Security at 67 make this scenario the best? I don't know. So let's look at changing our Social Security scenario. So we're going to look at starting Social Security at a different age. And so what we're going to do within the software is it's going to tell us, hey, this is the best time to claim Social Security. Okay, so for Ben, claiming at 67 makes the most sense in this scenario. Let's see what happens if we back it up to 62. Well, he's at 75, claiming at 67. We're out of money at 74, claiming at 62. What about 70? Now we're out at 72. That's because we're draining our retirement assets too much early, right? We're taking so much of our retirement savings that it's drawing down these accounts even before we get to Social Security. So for Ben, 67 is when he should claim Social Security. But that's not the only thing we need to look at. We might have to retire a little later. And I know that I'm going to be struck by lightning because I said that, especially in the comment section. But he is too young to retire with the amount of assets that he has. As a fiduciary, I'm just telling you the truth. So we need to look at that. So his retirement date right now is 10 of 2025. It's 55 years. What if we go to 2027? What if we retire at 57? Now that pushes him 2 more years. What if we go to 60? Oh, look at that. If we work till 60, it gets us all the way to 85. Now I'm feeling a lot better about what's going on. So here's what we're doing. We're claiming Social Security at 67, and we're going to work an extra 5 years. That's going to get him to 85 years old. At that point, we've got the house. We can do a reverse mortgage. We can maybe work part-time a little longer. Remember, he's open to working part-time. And again, he's going to travel and enjoy himself. He's talking about working. He's from Colorado, maybe working at Coors Field or Mile High Stadium, part-time usher. That's what I want to do. I want to usher at Tropicana Field or whatever it's called when I get to that age. Watch some free baseball. Hey, can I help you to your seat? What's your number there? You know, that's fun for me, right? So in his case, we've got to look at these different factors. And there's so many things that we can look at. You know, we can look at contributions. Can he increase his contributions? What about the withdrawal order? Does it make sense to change the withdrawal order on his investments? Home downsize. We've talked about that. We're looking at that. HECM, home equity conversion mortgage. That's a reverse mortgage. Does that make sense? Protected asset sale. Do you have gold? Do you have collector cars, whatever? Is there something that's going to help push this maybe into the 90s? But 85 is still pretty good. So this is what I'm talking about. So for Ben, as a single guy, when does it make the most sense for him to claim Social Security benefits? And if he said 62, he would be wrong based on his current scenario because there's so much going into it that we need to look at. All right, when should I claim Social Security benefits? I am a married couple. We're going to look at Jim and Sandy. They're asking the question, when should we claim Social Security benefits? And we need to go through their numbers, their personal retirement savings, when they want to retire, what are their Social Security benefits, to get a good idea of when they should claim Social Security benefits. So let's go through this together. So here we go. We've got Jim and Sandy. Now, they're both going to retire at 60 and 59 years old. So they're 53 and 52 years old, and they make pretty good money. Jim makes $150,000 a year. Sandy makes $120,000 a year. So they make very, very good money. So we're asking the question, when should we claim Social Security benefits? Now, for them, they both get $3,500 a month at their full retirement age. So we can see that if they claim at 62, they're going to get 70% of their full retirement benefit. If they claim at 67, they're going to get 100% of that $3,500. That's their full retirement benefit. At 70, they're going to get 124%. That's $4,340. And you can see here how they can claim at any time between 62 and 70. They can claim at 64, 69, 65. It doesn't really matter as long as you're claiming between 62 and 70. But the question is, when should you claim Social Security benefits? So we're going to put it at 67 for both of them right now. And we're just going to say, hey, we're going to claim at 67 years old. That's our full retirement age. They're going to retire at 60 and 59. Okay? Now, from an asset standpoint, we've got right at $1.1 million saved for retirement. So we've got $1.1 million saved for retirement amongst various retirement accounts. Okay, you can see this. We've got non-qualified money. That's your freedom fund, right? You want to have a freedom bucket of money, the freedom to retire whenever you want. This is a little side note for you. If you're saving for retirement, if you're putting money into a 401k, a Roth IRA, if you're getting your match from your company, if you got extra leftover money, put that into a taxable brokerage account. Put that into an account that's just in your name. My name is Drew Blackston. It goes into a Drew Blackston individual account or a Drew and Valerie Blackston joint account. And that money, we can use it as a freedom fund, the freedom to retire whenever we want. If we want to retire at 55, we can use that money for retirement income without having to tap into our 401k or our IRA. Remember, if you take out money under the age of 59 and a half from your IRA or your 401k, your 403b, your TSP, you will pay a 10% penalty unless you follow some specific rules like the rule of 55 for 401ks or a 72T for an IRA. But let's just assume we don't want to use those specific rules. We can use a non-qualified brokerage account and we can just take out retirement income whenever we want. If we needed to buy a car, boom, we pull it out. We need to repair our roof because a hurricane rips it off. Boom, we can do that. And we don't have to worry about the IRS breathing down our neck, asking for their tax dollars. Okay? We have a 401k, which we're doing the max contribution. We have a TSP, which we're doing the max contribution. And we have 2 Roth IRAs that are being contributing to right now as well. Now, from a portfolio weighted average, we're going to look at a 5% rate of return until we get to retirement. And then at retirement, we're going to go to a 4% rate of return. So we're going to be a little bit more aggressive, and then we're going to basically pump the brakes on our growth prospects as we get into retirement. Now, I'm not telling you when you get into retirement, you give up investment growth. No, no, no. You just shift. I call it the guardrail rule. We're going to figure out what rate of return that Jim and Sandy need to earn for the rest of their life to never make their money run out, or at least get into an age that they feel comfortable with. And we don't need to invest more than that rate of return. It's called a guardrail. What if you're going down? We got I-4 here. I-4 connects Tampa to Orlando. I take my 3 kids and my wife to Disney. We go Tampa to Orlando. We drive I-4. If I had a helicopter, I would use it. But I-4, no other way to get to Orlando, as far as I know. If you know another way to get to Orlando from Tampa, let me know. We drive I-4. The speed limit on I-4 is 70 miles an hour. People think it's 80, but it's 70 miles an hour. If I go 85 or 90, I'm going too fast. 2 things will happen. Either I'll get pulled over by the police or I could cause an accident. Okay, both are bad. If I go 45 or 50, 2 things can happen. I'm going to get to my destination a lot slower, and I could also cause an accident. You want to go the speed that the limit sets. It's the same with your investments. If we need to earn 4 to 5%, let's say your rate of return that you need to earn for the rest of your life is 5%. Why are you going to invest for 8 or 9? 2 things could happen. You could invest and run out of money, right? Because the market does this and you take it out too soon. Or you can invest really well and the market kills it and you turn your $1 million into $4 million by the time you're dead. What are the odds that one of those is going to happen? It's probably 50-50. What I would rather do is drive 5%. Let's stay in our lane. Let's stay in our guardrail. Let's make sure with confidence that we are not going to run out of money. Because why take the risk? Warren Buffett says this: do not risk what you have for something that you do not need. Okay, that's good. All right, so let's look at this. We got $1.5 million. Now, from an expense standpoint, expenses, we've got baseline expenses of $5,000 a month. Okay, so this is like your utilities, your food, some fun in there. $5,000 with inflation of 3.27%. We've got healthcare expenses of $1,000. 3.27 inflation, even though healthcare inflation is probably more like 6 or 7%, usually about 2% higher than what the nominal rate is for the Fed. We're going to do that till 2035. That's when Jim and Sandy both are on Medicare. We've got Medicare, $750. They want to factor in a Medicare supplement. When you go on Medicare, you have 2 choices. You have a supplement and advantage plan. That's going to be secondary to your primary coverage, which is Medicare, okay? With a supplement, it costs a monthly premium. So we're going to calculate $750 because we're going to have our Medicare supplement premium and we're going to have our Part D premium, which is our drugs. If you go on an Advantage plan, most of the time there's no cost on a monthly basis. Drugs are included in that, but there are copays and deductibles. Either way, we're going to factor in $750 a month. And they want to travel. We're going to factor in $1,500 a month for travel, and that's going to end in 2053. So we're going to go from 2023 to 2053 for travel. Okay? So $6,500 is our current monthly expenses. Now, when we get to retirement, we start at 53 and 52. When we get to retirement, we're projected to have $2 million. So I have about $131,000 in the bank, $470 in our 401k, $211 in a TSP. We've got our Roth IRAs there of $134 each, and that non-qualified freedom fund of $342,000 plus our IRA is $617. That's $2 million. Okay? We go to retirement. Now here's what I want to look at. We're 59 and 60 years old when we retire. Here's Social Security kicking on, first for Jim and then for both of them, $7,000. Now you might notice that I did not give Social Security of cost of living adjustment from 53 and 52 until 67. The reason I didn't do that is because I wanted to be conservative in my planning. You can go to the Social Security website, ssa.gov. You can plug in your numbers. You can get an inflated figure, meaning you can get future dollars. So you can say, what's $1 today going to be at Social Security $1 then? Here's the thing I want to point out. You see this year right here, 2033? 2033. At the current moment in time, 2033 is when Social Security is projected to have a loss of benefits, meaning you could have a 23 to 25% reduction in your Social Security benefit. When are they claiming Social Security? 2037. So as a fiduciary, as a financial advisor, I don't want to do anything to steer them off course, especially late in their 60s. So we're going to look at not inflating Social Security on the assumption that Social Security is going to change. And if they don't fix it, it's going to fix itself by lessening benefits. Okay? So we've got $2 million. We're claiming Social Security here at 66, 67. And then essentially, really good plan, we're out of spendable assets at 92 and 91. Okay? So here we go. Here's our income. Social Security, there's taxes withheld, right? Here's our expenses at that time, about $20,000 a month. Now keep in mind, here they were, and then we dropped off at 83 and 82. That's when they wanted to start that travel. So you see how I went from $17,994 down to $14,612 a month. This is inflation, but then we had the travel drop off. Still got Medicare in there, still got baseline expenses, things like that. But we had the travel drop off. So now at 92 and 91, we're out of spendable assets. We still got this home, right? We can do a reverse mortgage, downsize, whatever. So this is a pretty good plan for them. But here's the thing I want you to think about. What about like long-term care? And we're going to get to Social Security in just a second. I want you to think about this. So they're in Illinois. Let's look at 2 years of care in a long-term care facility. We pay that long-term care here at 80. Let's just say this is for Jim. Now we're out of money at 82. So now it becomes a bigger factor, like when do I claim Social Security benefits, right? Because like if something happens to Jim, odds are that one of them is going to need some kind of care. It might not be long-term care. It might be informal care, which is like the spouse taking care of the spouse or a child taking care of a parent. But something's going to happen, and we need to look at that. So let's go back. Let's go back to retirement. And let's see when it makes sense to claim Social Security based on their statistics. So we go to Social Security Start, and what we're trying to determine is, does it make sense to take Social Security at full retirement age? Remember, if you take it 62, you get 70% of your full retirement benefits. If you take from 62 to 66, you get a reduced benefit, but it's increased. If you take Social Security benefits at 67, you get your full retirement benefit, which is 100%. And if you wait till 70, you get 124% of your benefit. Keep in mind, if you're still working, you do not want to claim Social Security between 62 and 66 and invest it. A lot of times people in the comment section will say, well, take Social Security at 62 and invest it. If you're working, do not do that because there's a Social Security test for income. And if you make more than what the income limit is, they're going to take back $1 for every $2 you make. Boop, boop. Don't do that, okay? Now let's look at this. Oh, wow, different. So for them, the software is saying take it 70. And here's the reason why. It takes them from 92 and 91 to 93 and 92. Not a big difference, but enough. Now let's do this. What if we did it 62 for both of them? It actually drops them back a year. Not a huge difference, right? 2 years for Jim, 2 years from Sandy, 90 to 89. So we need to make sure as we're stepping into, they're 53 and 52, so a lot's going to change between now and when they take Social Security. But what I want you to see is the Social Security optimization saying, hey, take it at 70 to increase an extra year of income. That might not be a big deal to you, but when you're 90, you need an extra year. You don't necessarily want to say, hey, I want to do reverse mortgage now. I want to sell my house and downsize. It's a big deal. So claiming Social Security is a big deal. The other thing we got to think about, they're married, right? If they both claim at 70, they're going to get $4,340. That's in today's dollars, right? $4,340. If Jim dies, Jim goes, he dies. Sandy is going to lose his Social Security. She's going to get hers, but she's going to lose his. Now, we're assuming they're exact because they both are higher earners right now. But so we're going to lose about $4,300 a month or whatever it is at that point. So for a married couple, and I'm talking to domestic partnerships as well, if you live with somebody and you guys pay bills together, you need to make sure you're claiming Social Security at the right time, because when one of you goes, one of the Social Security is going to go. And we want to make sure that you can continue your lifestyle, right? I like the old Jim Farley, right? Living in a van down by the river. What I've noticed is that one of the spouses can live in a van down by the river, right? And one of the spouses likes to continue their lifestyle, the travel, the eating out. And a lot of times, once you become single, you might eat out a little bit more. You might spend a little bit more money out with friends. You might spend the same amount, just doing it differently. So we need to have an exact plan for them. All right. So listen, I hope this has helped. I hope this helped you decide when you should claim Social Security benefits. If you want to get in touch with us, all the information is below. God bless. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.